Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Matrix Bootcamp, where you're going to learn some MLS tips and tricks that make you look like a rock star with your clients, and maybe will just help clear up some confusion. So we've got 4 of our amazing MLS instructors with me today, and I'm just going to go real quickly through each one of them and just have them say hello to all our guests. We've got WJ Miles. WJ, will you wave to everybody?
Hello, everybody. Have a great class today.
Wonderful. And then we've got Edith Vasquez.
Good morning.
Maggie York.
Good morning, everyone.
And Rachel Wallace.
Good morning.
So before we get into the meat of those tips and tricks that everybody's really excited to learn about today, Rachel, I think it would behoove us to at least kind of talk about those MLS changes, those major changes that just recently went out via email, because I know we've had a lot of people already chomping at the bit to go, what does this mean? Why did this happen to me? We've already got areas leaving, and now we've got these changes as well, but they're positive changes. And if you'll just kind of run through those really quick, Rachel, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to type in the chat. I do see somebody said I'm still muted. You guys are going to be muted during the webinar, but feel free to use the chat session. We will answer questions. If it's just really simplistic, then our amazing MLS instructors can type in and answer that. But if it's something that maybe the whole webinar needs to hear and talk about, we'll also address and have some time after each segment. So Rachel, why don't you start us off?
Perfect, sounds good. Yes, we do have questions there, and we also are going to be recording this guide too, so we can get that to our marketing team, and they can send this out on social media and YouTube and all kinds of good stuff as well. Starting off with some of the new changes that are going to be coming with the Matrix system. Like I said, all good things. I'm just going to hit some of the high points, but we are going to have an MLS Snap, which is one of our weekly newsletters that comes out, and it's going to have a lot more detailed information about these, so definitely keep an eye for that. But some of the big ones to look out for, commercial sale and commercial lease are now going to be separated into 2 different property types. Multifamily is now going to be titled residential income. Residential condos and residential townhomes are going to be separated. Let's see, the sold and leased statuses are going to be changed to closed. Temp off market will be changed to hold. Of course, we know about our areas and sub areas are going to be retired. And then another one that we've actually been getting a lot of questions about is total baths. So for example, right now, if you had 2 full bathrooms and 1 half bath, it would show as 2.1. And they're taking that out to do total baths and full baths and half baths. So for example, your total baths would be 3 baths, and then it would also be separated out to your full baths are 2 and your half baths is 1. So it's just going to be adding in total baths now as well.
Fantastic. So I know people are still going to have questions, and while you can still put them in the chat today, like Rachel said, more information is going to be rolling out. So I would say sit tight and watch out for that newsletter and the MLS Snap that's coming through. But Rachel is also our first presenter, and we're going to talk about homepage widgets. And Rachel, it's a fun word to say, but a lot of people don't even know what a widget is. So I'm excited for you to talk about what is a widget, concierge widgets, recent one-home visitors, hot sheets, different things that just could make our life easier if people actually knew what they were and how to utilize them. So Rachel, will you talk about all things widgets?
Sure thing. So for that one, I'm actually going to show you guys my screen. Let me do that real quick. There we go. This is my Matrix screen that you should be seeing here. And widgets, yeah, kind of a funny word. What is a widget? Well, a widget is going to be all of these little boxes that we see on the home page whenever you log into Matrix. All of these little guys. Some of them you might know and love. There might be some other ones that you don't know about. So that's what I wanted to kind of point out for you guys today. These guys are completely customizable, which is really cool. You just come up to the top and you can drag these guys around, and you can make this page look however you want it to look. But a couple of these that I wanted to point out that maybe you're using, maybe you're not. But the first one is this one right up here at the top, which is Concierge. And this one is a way that you can set up your auto emails. You can set them up on Concierge Mode. And what that means is that Matrix will run your search for you for what you're looking for. And then here in Matrix, it will alert you with this little widget right here on the home page. It'll also alert you with this little bell, that guy up there at the very top, that you have listings that you need to look through. And then you can go check those out and you can either approve them and then they get sent off to your client, or if you look through them, you're like, you know what, that's not the one for us, we can deny it. And so the nice thing about that Concierge widget is that it's right there on the home page. I can see, for example, I have a couple clients here. I have Ghost Henson, that's the name of my big fluffy dog. He's my pretend client. And I can see, oh, I've got 135 listings that Matrix found, and I can click straight on that, and it's going to take me into all of those listings, and then I can look through those, and I can say, oh, okay, he's really going to like this one, and he's really going to like that one, and then all I have to do is come down here and approve those, and it will send it on. And the same thing for the opposite. If I see a couple of them, like here, I'll go ahead and I'll send those, and it'll go to approved. But if I go through here and I'm like, you know what, these ones are just not matching what we're going to be looking for, I can also come down here and I can reject that. And all that's doing is it's just not going to send it to my client. So I can do that. And then it's also going to show me the ones that I've rejected. So they're not gone forever. They're not, you know, disappearing into the abyss. So I can always come back and still check those out. So that's the Concierge widget. It's just kind of a shortcut to get you to this page.
Hey,
So
Rachel, several people have said that that is not showing on their screen. Why would that not show?
Very good point. So let me go back to my home page. A couple of things with that one. So my Concierge widget is right up here at the top. If you don't see it and you do have some Concierge emails set up, it might be hiding. And let me show you where it's hiding. It might be hiding under additional, which is this guy right here. It looks like a little green plus sign and additional. And there's a little arrow here, and you can make that bigger. So it might be hiding under here, and you just have to click and drag it out. If you still don't see it, it could be that you don't have any searches set up on Concierge Mode, and that's why you're not seeing it.
Hey, Rachel, real quickly, because I know we discussed this before, what is the idea behind Concierge Mode? Because I know before we had one home and it was the old system, a lot of agents would just put themselves as the client because they didn't want the client being bombarded if there were a lot of loose filters on searches. So they would kind of do that and then send them off themselves. So what's the benefit and why would we use Concierge Mode?
Awesome. Yes, I love that you brought that up because that's one of the problems that we run into from time to time is you'll set up an auto email, you send it to yourself because you want to look through things first. You want to make sure that all those listings are going to be a good match for your client. And then you send it on. And sometimes you guys run into some error messages or some weird things going on. So Concierge Mode is the perfect fix for that. You go into your auto email, you set it up with Concierge Mode, and this does exactly what you're wanting to accomplish there. It's sending all of those listings to you first. You get to go through them, you get to check them, and then you can send them on and it goes directly to your client. And that will take out any of those error messages or weird things you might be running into. Instead of sending it directly to yourself, this one will send it to your client.
Fantastic. And I know there's a few people that are kind of asking more questions. They still don't see it. It's not an additional. And I think that's probably because they don't have Concierge Mode set up in their auto emails and their searches. So, you know, great idea. Use your dog's name like Rachel did or something else, but do a test case and play with it a little bit so you guys can get a little bit more comfortable. And of course, if that still doesn't work after this webinar, we've got our great MLS team that you guys can reach out to and they can still help you facilitate Concierge Mode. So, okay, what's next, Rachel?
Awesome, so that is Concierge Mode. The next one that I want to show you guys is we're going to do recent one home visitors, which is right here. And recent one home visitors, this one, now I don't have any activity in here because my dog hasn't checked his email. Oh my goodness. But this would be once you've done your concierge mode or you've done your auto email where you've got everything set up. Recent one home visitors is going to show you everything that your client is doing. So if they're going into their portal, if they are favoriting properties, if they are checking out, if they are putting in notes, things like that, it's going to show you who is visiting their portal, and it's also going to show you what they're doing there.
Perfect. Well, Rachel, we do have a lot of questions on just purely how to set it up, going back from the one home into concierge mode. Could you just do that really quickly in a quick search to show everybody? Because I know we've got probably some newer agents on here as well, but a lot of people haven't played with the new system with one home, how that looks. So if you could just start off with doing that really quickly, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so going back to setting up concierge mode or sending things out to your client, the first step is always going to be start with your search. What are you guys looking for? So you'll go to search, residential lease, commercial, whatever you guys are wanting to find. I'm just going to do residential quick because that's what we get the most questions on. And then I'll come in here and I'm going to put in my search. So maybe we're looking for actives and coming soons. And let's see what city. Let's say we're searching in the city of, let's do Bedford. Why not? I know a lot about Bedford. Okay, so we're searching in the city of Bedford. I could come over here and put in my price range, my beds, my baths, all that good stuff. We've only got 13 in Bedford. That's a pretty easy number to work with, so I'm just going to stick with that. So then I'm going to go to my results. So step 1 is do my search. Step 2 is go to my results. Here is all of my results in Bedford, everything active and coming soon. And then you'll come down here to this little toolbar at the bottom. It says Actions, Refine, Save, and Carts. And the one that we're looking for is going to be under Save, right there. And then right here is New Auto Email. So we're going to click on that one. And this takes us into where we can set up our auto email. So what we'll do is we'll pick out a contact from this drop-down menu, or you can do create a new contact right here. I am just going to stick with my dog as my pretend contact here. Okay. And then we have a few settings here. We can give it a name. So I might call this Bedford Search for Ghost. And then we've got what that email is actually going to say, what they're going to see. We've got my email signature down here, back from when I had brown hair. COVID has done a lot to us. Okay, and the concierge mode is going to be right down here under your settings for that auto email. So you're just going to check that little box right here. And you'll see that it kind of explains what that is right down here underneath. It says Matrix alerts you on the home page automatically as new matches are found. So that's going to be that home page widget, and it's also going to be that bell that's up in that top right hand corner. And then it also has a little checkbox here that says also send me alert notifications by email. So that way, if you want it to send you an email rather than having to come back into Matrix, log in, check everything, you can do it that way. It sends you an email and you can take a look at those listings right there. So that's how you set up concierge mode. All you have to do to finish is save and go to approvals. And it's going to take us right back to the page that we just took a look at. So here's all our listings, here's all our little check boxes, and I can do approve all of them, or I can check a couple of them and I can approve the selected ones, I can reject them. So that is how we get that concierge mode set up. And like I said, you can see it under that little bell up at the top or back on our homepage.
Rachel, that is great. I know there's a lot of people, even seasoned agents that have been doing this a long time, they do not use concierge mode. Everybody's just so much used to, I'm going to put myself as a contact and then I'll go through it that way. and we're really working harder instead of smarter. That concierge mode is here to make all of our lives easier as realtors. So I know there's still some additional questions, but we've got some other really cool tricks and 3 other MLS instructors that we have to go through. So keep your questions. We'll still try to highlight those if it's something that is a common theme through here. But hopefully this at least gets you guys started to start that concierge mode. I mean, there's still other things that you can play with. Like one of the check boxes when you were doing that was enable this search on the homepage. So that's something that you can do too if you really want to utilize and customize your homepage. But Rachel, that was so helpful and awesome. So let's go to your last tip, which was hot sheets.
Yes, so for that one, I'm going to go all the way back to my homepage here. And now we can see we have that new one under concierge mode right there. So that's how you set it up, and this is what you'll see there. But the last one that I wanted to point out to you guys real quick here is hot sheets. And this is another really great way to kind of keep an eye on a certain corner of the market. And this is really great because hot sheets show you what is hot. And when we say hot, what we mean is what's had a change, what's new, what's had a price change, what's had a status change. And these are really great because you can customize these to make them exactly what you want. And what I'll do is I'll just go into one of them to show you guys how they kind of work. So I've got one, you know what, let's just stick with Bedford since we're working with that one today. And so I'll click on my Bedford hot sheet and show you what that is, and then it'll kind of make a little bit more sense for you. So this is just for the entire city of Bedford. And the one to really pay attention to are these 2 columns over here all the way to the right. These are going to show you a change type and then what that change is. So this is the part that is what's hot, what's had a change. So this hot sheet is showing me that there are any new listings. It's also showing me any that are back on the market. So maybe they're off, now they're back on the market. We can see down and up over here. So down is going to be anything that's had a price change down. Up is going to be anything that's had a price change up. And then over here is going to give you the exact percentage of how much that change is. And then down at the bottom here, we have anything that's gone under contract. So we can see over here, we've had a couple that were active and they're now in the option period. It'll also show you anything that has sold. Looks like here in Bedford, there haven't been many that have been changed to sold lately. But that's kind of the power of these hot sheets. If you're wanting to keep an eye on a specific city or a specific neighborhood, zip code, it can be whatever you want it to be. You can set up a hot sheet and then it will show you pretty much everything that's going on in that area.
Well, and that's what's awesome about the power of hot sheets is you can get buried in emails. And especially if you're just kind of trying to keep an idea of what's going on for, maybe it's investors. You guys like to work with investors and they just have specific criteria, which I know we're also going to go into some detail with WJ Miles in a little bit on how we can kind of refine those things. But this is a great tool to always have in your homepage, be able to click. Maybe that's something that you do once a day is just keeping your eye on the pulse of the market. It also gives you a lot of great data to go out there and market to your sphere of influence. So if you've got a lot of people that do buy and sell in the Bedford area, or you do a lot of business in Collin County, you could set up different hot sheets this way and do a weekly update just because people want to know what the pulse is going on in their backyard. So it's a powerful tool, not only to help active clients, but also to keep you as the industry expert in your past clients and your sphere of influence. So that is a really awesome tool there. Okay, so we do have a couple people that were just asking how to create it really quick. Can you go back to the hot sheet screen and show them how to create one?
Sure thing. So here's your hot sheet. This is, again, another one of those widgets. If you don't see it right away, this might be one of those that's hiding under your additional one. You might just have to grab it and pull it out. And the way to create a new one of those is to come down here to this little customize button down below. We'll click on that. And then,
Rachel, real quick, you had 7 days as your default on there, correct? So that means it's going to give you a hot sheet overview of 7 days at a time.
Okay. Yes, that's correct. If I go back to that page, 7 days is right here. So this is just going to show me everything in the last week. Yep. Okay, so to create a new one, you'll go to Customize. And you're gonna have these top few. You'll probably already have these guys up here, residential, multifamily, those guys. But if you wanna create a new one, here's what I'll do. I have too many, so I'm gonna delete one real quick so we can watch how to add one. So there's a little add button right here. If that one is grayed out and you can't click it like mine just was, it might be that you have too many and you need to go in and delete one. But you can click add right here. And it's going to ask you for a type up here at the top. And that's going to be the property type. So if I want residential, I could do that. We've got multifamily, lots and acreage. You can get specific here. If you want to see everything, you don't care the property type, you can do cross property, and that's going to show you absolutely everything, all of the property types. And then it's going to want you to give it a name. And what I like to do for mine is I like to name it the area that I'm looking at. So that one that I was looking at was Bedford, but maybe if I wanted to do one for South Lake, I would title it South Lake. If you're looking at a specific subdivision, maybe title it that, zip code. You get the idea, something that you'll know what that is. And then we'll save it. And so it'll tell me that it's added that new hot sheet up top. And now all I have to do is make sure that one is highlighted. So I've got South Lake all highlighted here. And then we're going to go to edit criteria. And this is where I get to tell the system what I want to see. So for example, I might come down here to city and put in South Lake because that's what I'm wanting to keep an eye on. But I can also get really, really specific with this. I can come over here to change type, and I can tell it if I just want to see specific things. So if I'm just wanting to see the new listings in South Lake, I could select that. If I just wanted to see back on market or price changes, any of that. I can select multiple of these just by holding down my control key on my keyboard and clicking on them. I can select multiple. You could come over here and do prices, beds, baths, square footage. So this is really as customizable as you want it. You can make it super broad or you can make it super, super specific. It's really tailored to you.
Well, Rachel, and I think that's great. And what I would tell everybody here is there's so many things that we could drill down on. And I know everybody starts getting excited. But what I'd say, if you look at the bottom of the page and there's that save button. So a couple of you were asking just even how to save one. So Rachel would go ahead and save after that, but play around. I think you'd be shocked that you guys will kind of figure it out once you get into the system. And this is just kind of a really high level or surface overview for you guys. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Rachel. I just know for time constraints, and we've got 3 other things going on here, we want to make sure that you guys get the full Monty today. So Rachel, was there any last little tip or trick that you wanted to mention before we move on?
All you have to do is save at the bottom, come down here whenever you're done, and then right there at the bottom, there's my new hot sheet, and now I get to play around with it.
Perfect. And that's exactly what you guys need to do. Start playing around with it. And if you still have problems, reach out to our amazing MLS staff and they will help you guys navigate maybe the difficulty that you're having. I see somebody even said, I need to look for a house with an ag exemption. That's really drilling down. I'm sure you guys can do that in there by adding different filters and different things on your searches. But if you have a problem, reach out to our MLS team and they will get you taken care of. So Rachel is going to continue to drive and share her screen for the rest of the presenters. So you guys still have some awesome opportunities to learn some new tips and tricks. But now we're going to go to Edith. And Edith, you've got some cool things, but you're going to cover really some of the most questions that you guys get in the MLS department, whether it's after a webinar or just normal stuff that you guys are seeing at a consistent basis. Especially with listing input. So Edith, take us away and blow our minds.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to go over a couple of the most popular questions that we get when it comes to listing input, and I think it's going to save you some time. So Rachel, would you like to go to a listing, just to practice one? So one of the things that we get a lot of calls in is how many rooms do I need to put on there? Sometimes that prevents you to make it go active. And can we go to the rooms tab? Yeah, there we go. So if you put anything over 0 on bedrooms, and living areas. The system has conditional fields. So it's going to ask you to put a minimum 1 bedroom, okay? And you're going to need to put the dimensions on there, as Rachel's showing us right now. Then if you put anything above a 0 on living areas, it's going to ask for you to put a living area room dimensions as well. So if you have one, like Rachel has one on the screen right now, she must put those dimensions. So in a living area. So right now she put the living room dimensions, and then the system will let her move forward. So as we all know, right, we say the yellow, remember the yellow is required, but in the system, it does have some conditional fields. As you can see, it's not turning yellow for Rachel, but the system will not let her move forward until she puts that bedrooms and living area. Now, just remember, anything above 0, right? So for instance, if there's a loft and there's no bedrooms, it's gonna let you move forward.
Edith, somebody's asking what the button on the bottom, validate, actually does.
That is a great question. So for instance, maybe this is your first listing and you know, the system will automatically check it for you when you submit listing, and you're gonna get all these exclamation marks on things that you need to move forward with if you are missing them. But if you want to take a little time beforehand, you can validate. And Rachel, do you want to go ahead and do that? She's probably going to get a lot because this is just an example. But there we go. So what Rachel just did, she pretended that she was going live with it. And do you see all those red marks that she's getting? That is telling you that there's something missing. So validate, it's a good like checkup. Check my work before I move forward.
And I think that's great, Edith, because especially a tool for newer agents who don't know, because when you try to put it active and they tell you got 15 things in the list, it can be a little daunting to try to go back. So will this allow you to facilitate making those changes kind of one at a time like this versus trying to remember all the things at the end in list format?
Yeah, so if
Okay.
you, I've heard new agents go in and they say, every time I'm finished with that tab, I click on that validate before I move forward. Also, Rachel, would you like, can you click on one of those exclamation marks? And it actually shows you and tells you what the requirement is. So, and also if you go to the status tab, it would actually give you a list. If you scroll down, there you go, of all the errors that you need on there. So you get a summary, or you can go by the tab and click on each one of them.
Now, if you're really good, the summary is not a bad thing. But if you've got a lot of errors on there, I would say start using the validate to get yourself comfortable with what are required tabs and input versus what is just pertinent to each listing. So going through, there's a couple of different questions, and I know you guys are answering. So one of them is, what if you don't know the dimensions? I'm going to pop in here, Edith, as a realtor and not as the system. What I would encourage you guys to do, and this is from a realtor's perspective, I'm a practitioner in our marketplace, it really is important because there are a lot of people who have specific needs as far as minimum requirements on room sizes. And if they don't see them there, sometimes people won't even look at the listing. So, I mean, we've seen people before just put 0 and 0. If you absolutely have to do that, maybe it's a distress listing or something else. I mean, that's understandable. But if it's something you have access to actually measure, I would recommend, you know, you put the actual dimensions in there. And just a little tip and trick from my side, I live and die by my laser measurer. So if that's something that you guys don't want to use the old school tape measure or anything else, go to Lowe's, Home Depot, Amazon. My favorite is the Bosch one. It's just simple. Every once in a while it goes into metric and I start freaking out. But you know, that's a great tool there. So those are just things that I think if you guys kind of work on, but if you have to and you just don't have access to the room measurements, is it correct? You can just put 0 and 0.
You can put 0 and 0, but it is recommended for you to put those dimensions. You never know what
Perfect.
people are looking for.
Yep.
So
Wonderful. Okay. Well, what's next, Edith?
the other one is schools. We do get a lot of questions in schools, and so let's go to that general tab. Yeah. So the general tab has two sections, and the second one is locations. Locations also includes schools. So one of the other things that this is a conditional field, the mandatory is the school district. However, once you have the school district, you're going to need to select that. You must select 3 schools. So that could be primary, elementary, middle school, junior high, or high school, depending on the area you're in. Now, if the area you're in has 4 schools, you can go ahead and put 4 schools, but the system will require the minimum of 3. Another thing that I will mention, sometimes we do get these questions. It's like, I'm not seeing the schools and I'm not seeing the district. Go ahead and check your county and make sure that the county is the correct county on there. So that is the major one right there. So if you're not seeing that school district or you're not seeing the schools, take a look at the address and ensure that you have your county selected the correct one.
And I'm going to put another realtor tip on this one. A lot of times, especially with these growing areas and new subdivisions that are coming in all the time, those schools are changing. So what the schools were maybe last year might be really, really different. Especially when you're talking about these areas that are adding new schools. So it is great to go on previous listings and look at that just to kind of give you a baseline, but don't let that be the gospel when you're filling out your new listing. Definitely go out to the school district website. Usually they'll have an awesome mapping tool where you can put in the physical address and it will give you a list of what the current schools are. So I really kind of make sure, again, it's awesome to use previous listings or listings in the current neighborhood to kind of go off of. But I will tell you, just because an agent puts it in there doesn't mean it's right. So double check your work on that. But that's just a realtor tip on that one as well.
Thank you, Ashley. Yes, the way we put it here, you are the expert to your listing. So just go ahead and go to those districts. Most of them, especially the big ones, like you said, just put the address on there and it will bring up the schools for that address. And sometimes another question that we get is, this is for the next school year and there's going to be this school. This new school popped up in the neighborhood and this address. So if we go depending on what the school district has. So if the school district already has that school, send us an email and we can contact Netris to add that school. However, if the school district still does not have that school listed on there, their Netris is going to have to wait until it goes, it shows properly on the school district.
So if you guys heard that, if you're having issues with schools and you know they're correct, maybe Netris just needs to update their system. So again, reach out to our MLS department if you're getting violations or anything else because the schools aren't up to date yet. I am going to go back real quick. Dana, you mentioned, on the other page when you were doing the bedroom input and different things like that. On master bedroom and master bath, there are ones that replicate themselves on features when you can click those. And, she's saying she's, confused on which ones that are actually supposed to be putting those on. I mean, again, I think that's a preference situation, but maybe just pay attention. You might have a closet in the master bedroom instead of the master bathroom. So that's really important on those main rooms as a realtor, when I'm looking at those listings, just make sure, use your discretion. I know it's confusing sometimes, but it's also there because maybe these features can be found in both the bedroom and the bathroom. But that's on you to decide what that looks like. Definitely don't put them under the master bedroom and the master bathroom and just cover your bases there. So, and again, those aren't requirements to put the features, but those are really helpful tools, specifically in those main rooms that a lot of people have, specific needs that they want to be seen. So I think that kind of gets us. Joseph, you know what? That is a question that I know some people are having. Is master bedroom going to be changed to primary? Edith, can you just answer whether or not that's something that's going to change up here in our system?
I don't believe that's on the list of the new changes upcoming. but we can definitely check for you.
I think you're correct, Edith. If I'm not mistaken, there have been some other areas and MLSs that have adopted that, but we are not at this juncture. So it will not change, Joseph. Perfect. Going on, what about showing instructions and that pesky status change? I know that even kind of trips me up a little bit sometimes, Edith.
Yes, I can't tell you how many calls I get each week on this one. So hopefully this will save you some time. We want you to really have that tip just to save you a call. So on showing the instruction types, so as humans, we want to fill everything in, right away. So one of the things is that if you're not ready to go live, or if you're putting it as coming soon and your listing is not going to go active. So right now, Rachel is showing how the showing instructor type is there. The system is not going to let me move forward if I'm putting it as coming soon, because in coming soon, there's no showings. So the system is going to reject that part. So a lot of times, if you look, if there's a blank space in there, you won't see it. So how do we get it removed? Simply click your control key if you're using a PC, and it's going to be the command key if you're using a Mac for those Mac users. And then go ahead and just click on that, and it's going to go away.
Edith, that is something, again, that's tripped me up, because automatically when we're just in muscle memory, you always put the showing information, you always do that kind of stuff. And that took me a little bit to even figure out, okay, I'm going in coming soon status. Yes, you aren't allowed to show, therefore showing instructions would not be relevant. So that's, again, the mindset behind that, guys. So control key, hit it, command, hit it, and that will remove it, and you guys should be on your merry way to being able to go into that coming soon status. Let's see, what is the direct number to ask a question for an issue with MLS, guys?
That's going to be 214-540-2755. We're here to help you. If you need to walk through step by step, this is what we're here for. Just make sure that you know how to use the system, and to just encourage you to empower yourself and become the matrix expert.
Okay, so once again, that was 214-540. What was the last part, Edith?
2755.
2755, and we will send that to everybody. Fantastic. So somebody went back and said that the system now requiring levels for rooms. That is correct, right? If you've got a room on there, you got to put a level, guys. So
yes,
yep. So, and that's where that nice little triangle that we're seeing right there, that's where we put the levels. Perfect. Awesome. Well, Edith, was there anything else that you wanted to go over that you guys are kind of as your frequent flyer questions that you guys get on there?
Yeah, another thing that can save you some time if you're coming into the system and just starting a listing. So incoming is your draft. I'm not ready for it to make it live in the system. That is just for me, save my work. I'll put something in, I'll come back later when I'm ready and make it go live. So in the general tab, which is the first tab, again, we all want to put everything in, right? We are going to ask you to please wait to put the list date and the expiration date. And here's why. If you go ahead and forget to, let's say I start something today, but I don't go live until next week. I come back, I make it live, and I forget. Guess what? My list date is incorrect now, right? So just hold off a little bit, because if you make it go live with the wrong list date, we are required to get you to give us the listing agreement. The date has to match, and then that's just going to take some time away from you, right? So just hold off on that one to make sure that everything goes right. And again, just go back and review your work. Just make sure that you don't need to make any changes there. But if you do, as much as we love to help you, we are going to need paperwork. So the paperwork, then we're going to have to contact NetDress, because even ourselves, we can not change that. We have to send it to NetDress and then wait for NetDress to do it, which they are typically quick on that. And then we can go ahead and proceed with that request. So save yourself some time. Wait if you're not ready to go live until the end.
So that is a fantastic tip there, Edith, because even the most experienced agents will make a mistake there, and there is nothing more embarrassing to have to go to your client and say, hey, I'm trying to fix that. It's going to take me a minute. So like you said, if you're just going along and saving your work, so when you are ready to go live, that you've already kind of done the bulk of the input for the listing, that's fantastic. You're being proactive, and I love that. But just leave off that list date, an expiration date, just to make sure that that's not a moving target as you guys are getting towards that listing going live. So moving on though, because we could go on forever on the different things that we see when we're putting in a listing, I think it's time for WJ Miles to show us some of his infamous tips and tricks that can make us look really smart when we're trying to search for homes for our clients. WJ?
Before I get started with that, I just want to remind everybody we have 2-hour webinars on all of these subjects. So you're asking some pretty detailed questions here that we get to in our classes. So be sure and attend all of our different MLS classes there. But today I'm going to talk to you about some things that you might not have thought of how to search in the MLS. And one of those is the property description field. So let's say we're going to do a search residential quick. At the bottom of each search, you can add or remove fields. So if we scroll all the way to the bottom, if there's nothing down there, you'll just see the add. But if you do have something, you can do add remove. So we're going to add. On the left-hand side, you're going to see the fields that are available to add. And there's a whole bunch of them. So the easiest way to find it is with the search box below the available fields there. If you type in the word property, you're going to see all the fields that have property in it. The one we're going to use today is property description. And then hit the add button there in the center to move it over to selected. Anytime you see navigation built into a page, always use that. So you want to use the back button in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And now when we go back to that search, we're going to see all the way at the bottom, we now have a field called property description. Why would I search the property description? So if you know realtors use certain terms when they list a particular type of property, then you can search that property description for the term that they use. So like investor, TLC, handyman, those type of words, you can look for those words. So instead of doing investor or investment, we recommend you just do invest, but you have to use the wildcard in the system. You have to put an asterisk in front and an asterisk behind. That means anything can come before that word, anything can come after that word. Okay, so it would find investor, investment, any of the words that have invest in it. If you want to do more than one word, you would do a comma behind it, another asterisk, and let's say TLC. TLC stands for Tender Loving Care in Real Estate. So you can find a lot of realtors that use TLC. So that is an or, invest or TLC, okay? So you could look for generational, you could look for mother-in-law, you could look for any terms that you know and realtors are going to use. There's another wild card that we don't tell you a whole lot about, and it's a not. You can see it under some of the fields. If you will, Rachel, show them right up underneath county, city. See how you can say not? So maybe I want to be in Denton County, but not in Louisville. I could do Denton County, then I could go over and put in Louisville and say not Louisville. Okay, so just make sure your search is more specific. You can also do it in the property description field though. If we go back down and clear that out, I had a call several months ago of a realtor. She was dealing with an older lady in the low end of the market, and she kept sending her listings that said as is. How do I stop sending her the as is listing? She can't afford to fix it up. She can't do it herself. So there is another wild card that is the exclamation point. That is a not. That is forcing a not. But you have to use it in conjunction with the asterisk. So exclamation point, asterisk, as space is, and another asterisk. That got rid of most of them, but then we saw that some people were using as dash is. So we did it again, comma, exclamation point, asterisk, as dash is, and that got rid of all of them that she was sending to that lady.
WJ, that's pretty awesome. And basically what that means is you guys can't just be so literal when you're doing things. If you know your client doesn't want an as is, that's thinking out of the box. What are other variations that maybe the realtor is going to put in that property description? So that's really cool, because even when you did that dash as is, it removed 2 more matches. So, you know, for us to really drill down and be better stewards of searches and not overwhelm our clients, I think that's one of the coolest tools that if you guys don't get from anything else today, is being able to do both of those. Searching for the specific terms and excluding those specific terms is fantastic.
Be careful about really broad terms though. If you put the word wood in there, you're ruling out wood floors, hardwood, scraped woods. Be careful about the terms you use. If you use something too broad, then you're going to be wiping out a lot of stuff that your client does want there. Okay?
Perfect.
All right, so if we back out of there, let's say I want to live in a particular city, but I don't want to live in a particular subdivision. So if we go up and we do Flower Mound, let's say I used to live in Flower Mound, know a little bit about that, and then remove the not at the bottom there. So Flower Mound, but my mother, my brother, my ex lives in a particular subdivision. I don't want to live in that subdivision and be too close to them. You would do the same thing here. Exclamation point, asterisk, Bridalwood, asterisk. That would mean I want to be in the city of Flower Mound, but not in any subdivision that has the term Bridalwood in it. Any subdivision in that city you could do the same thing with. Even if there was more than one, you could do the comma and an exclamation point and so forth there. Okay.
Well, and WJ, on my side, especially when you're in certain neighborhoods that maybe have been around for 20 years, different things like that, we see them being recorded a lot differently, the names of the phases or the subdivision. So like for one, there's a subdivision in Rockwall, and it's called The Shores. And sometimes it'll be recorded as Shores, sometimes it will be The Shores, sometimes it's an abbreviation of The Shores. So that's something that I've run into. Is there a way to do that?
Well, you would just do the primary portion of it. So instead of doing the shores, just use the word shores. It could be the shores, it could be Shores Estates. If you do the primary version of that subdivision and don't worry about what comes before or after, then that will usually block it out. I did see someone earlier saying that they were sending listings to their client and they were seeing things in Louisiana. Well, Northwest Louisiana joined us, what was it, last year, year before last? I forget. So in the state, we now have Texas and Louisiana. So what we're recommending on your default searches, and I'll show you how to set one up here in a second, is highlight Texas, and then that way nothing in Louisiana will show up. So go ahead and clear the search in the bottom left-hand corner if you don't mind, Rachel. Maybe I only want, when I come into this search, to have active and coming soon. I generally deal in single family only. And I only want listings in Texas because I'm only licensed in Texas. Now, if we go up to the gear in the top right-hand corner, you click on that gear, the first sentence there says, set the currently selected search criteria as my starting default. Now, every time I come into residential quick, this is automatically going to be filled in for me. I don't have to remember to do Texas. It's already selected. Now, when I come in, I would put in the additional things that I need for my client there. Just put in the basic stuff that you want to come up and then fill in what you need to for the client there. Okay. Also, we've had questions about areas and sub areas. If we scroll down, the areas and sub areas, when we do launch the new matrix that we're in beta testing right now, those are going to go away. All right. The decision was made years ago to remove those, but now we're coming up on it's going to happen. And Rachel recorded a great video that's on our YouTube channel of how you can go in and create searches and go on the map and draw area 11, area 25, whatever area you like, and you can save it as a save search now, because you can go in and see the areas now, and if you want to recreate them as a save search, you can hit them as a save search there.
And,
Okay.
and I just want to reiterate, WJ, that this was not a MetroText decision. It was not an MLS decision, wasn't a Kathy Faulkner decision. This was because MapsGo's no longer updated, and that's where the areas came from, guys. So it's not something that you can send a strongly worded email and see if you can change. It's done. It's being updated, but like you said, WJ, Rachel did a phenomenal video that will be there, but go ahead and do that quickly, because once they're gone, if you don't have those areas memorized, it might be a little more difficult for you to do that mapping tool. But I bet you have a friend that's got an old MLS area map, because we were laughing back and forth the other day doing screenshots of MapsGos and area maps and things like that. So that being said, I know, WJ, is there anything else? Because I know we've got Maggie and just a few minutes left, and we definitely want to get to that topic as well.
I think that's it. Just remember to attend our classes and we go in much more detail.
Awesome. And I know you guys are bringing up some really great questions, and the MLS instructors are trying to answer them individually, but don't feel bad if we didn't highlight it. Like WJ said, there's videos out there. They do tons of classes and webinars. So they're just kind of look at that topic maybe that you want to drill down more on and attend one of those. So Maggie, hopefully there's not a major hard stop at 11, because I think we're going to have a few questions. So, but I am going to task you with doing this as quickly as possible and blowing people's minds on how do we do foreclosures, because that is something that I think some people think are getting back into the marketplace. While it might not be heavy, maybe you still work with people and there are foreclosures coming in. There's some really awesome tools that you're going to show us on how to be a foreclosure expert. Is that correct?
Yes, I do get a lot of questions on foreclosures and how to look for that, and are there any reports to pull and records to look at. So long story short, yes, there's actually 3 different ways to look at distressed properties using the platforms in the MLS system. Rachel, actually we're going to start in Realist Tax. So there's 2 ways that are pretty, either you know them, you don't, but usually one or the other people will know about. So in Realist Tax, you can go in and do a My Search. And Realist Tax is the public record. So quick overview is Realist comes in and brings in all of the tax records for the Texas. So of course it has all of our areas here that we use. So Rachel, if you'll go ahead, go into My Search, we're going to customize that search. And the big one for here, regardless of anything else that you search when you're in Realist Tax, is going to be the foreclosure stage. There we go, foreclosure and distressed property. So you'll see that there's several here. But when you're searching in Realist, you want that foreclosure stage. And for the sake of our search today, let's do a zip code. No, let's do city. Rachel, I'm going to do the same search 3 times, and we're just going to look at what we can find. So what Rachel's done is she's gone to my search. She's adding whatever attributes she wants to search by. These are just what fields do I want to pull information by. We've got foreclosure stage, city. Let's go ahead and apply that. So you'll see over there on the left, we can go in and pick whatever searchable fields we want. Now we're going to field them here. We have foreclosure stage, select from list, and we have 3 options there. Pre-foreclosure, auction, and bank owned. So with distressed properties, there's typically 3 different stages. Your pre-foreclosure, they've received a letter and they've defaulted. It kind of gets things going. Your auction status, where your properties are either on the auction block, scheduled to be on the auction block, or they're about to be auctioned. And then bank owned is the last, where bank has already purchased or taken that property back and is now under bank ownership. And so we can choose 1 or 2 of these. We're going to go ahead and search all 3 of them. Rachel, let's throw in a city there. Let's do Bedford, if you would, please. And let's run that search. Should be able to find some. So based on tax record, that's what we're looking for here. Based on tax record or public data, what foreclosure or distressed properties are in Bedford. And right now, Rachel's got us open on a map, so you can see that's Bedford. We've got, what is that, 183 and 121 going through there. So there are a few. Would you switch us to the split view, please, ma'am? I like to see my list. Mapping is great, and seeing where everything is laid out is fantastic, but I like to be able to see my list down there. So it looks like we have 13 results based on public record. Go ahead and pick one for us. Let's do, oh, I recognize that 100 Stonegate. Rachel, would you click on that for me? And so what Rachel can do to go look at that foreclosure information is open the record, and any foreclosure information in Realist will be towards the bottom of that record. So hold on, Rachel, just a sec. I know we're in the speed challenge here. Go back to the top for me real quick. So all your records are going to have your basic information there at the top. You've got your owner information, location information, and then scrolling down is going to be the rest of that property information, your interior, your exterior, tax information, changes in your assessment and tax. And then way down at the bottom will be, if there is any applicable, will be your foreclosure information. You can zoom down now, Rachel. I'm sorry. All right. So right there is our foreclosure information. It's real straightforward. I am not the biggest fan of this particular search because we had 3 different stages selected, right? We have pre-foreclosure, auction, and bank owned. Which one is this? Can y'all tell me? Even if you could tell me, I couldn't tell you if you're right or wrong because there's not a whole lot of indication here. We see that there was an original document back in 2010. It looks like a new recording in 2021. There's been a lot happening. The document type is a notice of sale, but really that's about it for us. We'd have to do a lot of digging to find out more information outside of there's some kind of distressed activity for this property. We don't have a whole lot. And they're all going to be about like that in here in Realist. But it is a good way to search based on public record. All right, let's go back to Matrix, Rachel. So in
Maggie,
yes.
real quick, I just wanted to say, for those of you that are still on, I don't want to abbreviate Maggie's portion because it is fantastic and there's going to be a ton of knowledge here. So stay on with us for a few more minutes and let Maggie go through some few more tips and tricks on the foreclosures. And then everybody keeps chiming in with, are we going to get a copy of the recorded webinar if we're registered? WJ Miles is shaking his head yes. So don't worry, if you have to jump off because it's 11 o'clock and get to that next appointment, you will get the recorded webinar and see the rest of Maggie's presentation. And where did you go to get Realist, Maggie?
So Realist Tax is available right there at the top. You can go into Netris Matrix and just simply click on Realist Tax right there, and it'll pull you right over into and start getting ready to search.
Fantastic. And then somebody else is asking how up to date is the foreclosure status? And I think while we have all these really neat tools, that doesn't mean it's always up to date. Isn't that correct?
That is correct, and that's actually an excellent question, and I totally forgot to mention. Rachel, would you go back to realist tax for me? So the question, you guys, is how up to date is this foreclosure information? And so all information, when you look at these property reports that are pulled from public record, are going to be as accurate and up to date as when realist last recorded or pulled over that information. Close this for me, Rachel, and let's go look at our county information. So you can go and look at that. Rachel, when she hovers over the multiple counties selected, so we have Collin County, Dallas, Denton, Ellis, Rockwall, and Tarrant selected. She can have up to, I think it's 8 selected at one time, but you'll notice each one has its own recording date. So Collin County was last recorded, it doesn't look like too long ago, 9 days ago, so that's not too bad. The 10th of this month. Dallas was last recorded, it looks like the 19th of December, so it's exactly a month. Denton was the 27th, Ellis was 9 days ago, Rockwall was the 4th of this month, and then Tarrant County, which is where we're searching currently, because Bedford resides in the county of Tarrant, was the 9th of November. So of all the counties we could have searched, we are 2+ months was the last time that Tarrant County records were pulled over into realist. So whereas you can search here and pull the information, it is only as good as it is accurate. And am I going to be able to use a Bedford search based on 2+ months ago? Probably not. So thank you for the question. That was wonderful. Rachel, let's go back to Matrix.
And while they are doing that, that is a great point. And again, as a realtor and somebody who's practicing currently, you do want to make sure that you're cross-referencing whether or not those things are up to date, because especially when people are in distressed situations, maybe they're coming out of it, maybe there's something else, but you know, foreclosures aren't just about good deals. There are human beings on the other side, and there are different situations that are going on. And so I always recommend cross-referencing what's going on before you start maybe marketing those properties or reaching out with seller or owner contact information. So that's just my little side note, and be a good human and a good realtor. So go ahead, Maggie.
Thank you. All right, so our next search is a search in Matrix. We're going to go ahead and we'll go search. We'll do residential quick. And there's an additional field that we can add here that will allow us to search one of the foreclosure stages. She's going to go to additional fields, add/remove. And the additional field that we require is seller type. So underneath available fields, she's either going to scroll down or just type in that little search bar, seller. And seller type is one of the chosen ones. We can click on it. Once it's highlighted, click on add. Once it shows under the selected fields, we're going to click back, and scrolling down underneath additional fields, we'll now see that seller type is an available search field. And so lender/REO is your bank owned. So as far as your traditional searches in Matrix go, the only stage for foreclosure you can search for is that lender/REO. It's already owned or taken back by the bank. But there are 37 matches, so if you're interested in that, something that you can pull. And then the very last search that I want to show you guys is kind of a crossover. It's a mix between our public record search or our tax, realist tax, and Matrix. So going back up, Rachel, if we go to search and go down under public record. Now, the criteria page does look a little bit different because this is technically a tax search. This is not realist tax, but it is a tax search. It pulls over public data into MLS for us. And that top portion is going to be kind of your what on the tax record do you want to search for, and then down underneath you can add additional information and even listing information. So whereas realist tax, you're really just searching the public record, and then our traditional search we just ran, we're really just searching bank owned on listings that are agent entered. This is going to be your mix of both. You could just search for tax, you could search for your tax foreclosure and MLS activity and get that crossover. But the big one here, if you do nothing else, is that foreclosure indicator. See that? It says actively in foreclosure. Actively, meaning right this moment, they're in foreclosure. All right, that's what we want. So we're not going to add a whole lot of fancy stuff. We're really just going to do city and run that Bedford search again and see what we can find for our results. Looks like we've got 13 matches. Can we look at those, Rachel? All right, and again, because it is a different type of search, so our results page is a little bit different, kind of looks funny. Our MLS number is way over there in the middle, but look at that, there's MLS numbers, and some of those look recent too, specifically. But we are not going to click on our MLS numbers. I know it's tempting. We are actually going to come over here and click on, do the second one for me, Rachel, the tax ID. The tax ID. Pulling up, it's similar to our MLS 360 view. You'll notice in the display, it's that 360 property view. So we've got the tax and all of our different little tabs, but notice it has its very own foreclosure tab. So let's go ahead and click on that. We've got all our tax information. If there was a last listing, it's got any last listing information, photos, history, all of that. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through each one today, but we will look at foreclosure. And if y'all haven't noticed just yet, next to our 2312 Wembley Wood, our address up there, do y'all see where it says pending? So it looks like that is a currently active listing. It's in a pending status right now when it went pending. And what is that next to it, Rachel? REO. REO is our bank owned, right? So without having to do a lot of digging and guessing and trying to find people to call, we already know that this is a bank owned. It tells us the document type is a trustee's deed and the mortgage information, if any, is available. Let's go, we'll look at some more of this information on the next one. Let's find us an auction, Rachel. She's just going to toggle over and look at that. There's an auction for us right there, clear as day. We know exactly what stage our 1201 Carousel Drive is in. We have right there what type of document it is. We have the defendant who's involved, the attorney that's involved, the trustee's address, who's handling this case. Scroll down a little bit. We have our foreclosure auction date. Looks like it's coming up in February. Our auction time. Looks like it is planning. Okay, mortgage information. So all of our mortgage information, foreclosure lender code. So who currently holds that mortgage that's gone into default. So already this versus our realist tax. Realist tax is great. If you work in realist tax, you love using it. If you want to send out your labels, you can do all of that from realist tax. But the amount of information that I get here, and see, we're not agents. The four of us, we know the function. We know how to find things. We know how to run your searches, all the ins and outs and great things. So when you throw something like this in front of someone who's not licensed, hasn't gone to school to help with properties or transactions, it says something that I can read part of this and actually understand it. And I'm pretty sure I can follow this and make calls, get more information. Realist tax didn't really give me a whole lot to go on, to be fair. Let's go to the next one, Rachel. And go next. Let's see if we can find a pre-foreclosure. There we go. Rounding out our 3 stages, we have a pre-foreclosure. It looks like it sold back in 2008. It looks like a point of substitute trustees, our current document type, defendant, the attorney handling it, the trustee's name of who is on that case. Scrolling down, we have the mortgage information, who's the lender, and any additional foreclosure history for that property.
Now, I want to chime in from an agent's perspective that pre-foreclosure status is a tricky one. And I know a lot of us will get phone calls. Somebody sees it on Zillow. This house is in pre-foreclosure, Ashley. This seems like a great deal. Just because it's in pre-foreclosure status doesn't mean it's ever going to be actively sold. They could be negotiating a modification on their loan. They could be doing a plethora of things, especially with COVID. There are a lot of lender options to kind of get yourself out of that running behind on your mortgage payment. So don't sit there and say, just because to a client who sees this or you see this information, don't use that as the gospel that it's actually going to go into foreclosure. So just keep that in mind. That doesn't mean that that's not something you keep on your radar, but people spend a lot of time researching pre-foreclosures that don't ever actually get there. So not to say do it, those are things to keep on your radar. And if that's truly what you do is work with a lot of distressed sales, investors, everything else, of course, you're going to look at pre-foreclosures. But for those that don't do that a lot, keep that in mind when you see that type right there.
Yeah, and that's really all I have for you guys. I get asked almost every class, I get asked about foreclosures. So it actually asked what I wanted to talk about. I was like, I'll talk about foreclosures.
There you go. No,
But
I mean, it's an exciting topic, and it is a great tool for us to leverage all of these different things that we have here in our robust matrix system. And so I think this was great. Again, we could go on for hours on each one of these topics. People were asking where we can see pre-recorded webinars, different things, videos. I did chime in there and send everybody an answer to go to the Metrotech's YouTube page. There are so many different videos beyond just MLS, pre-recorded webinars that you can go back and look at. Is there anywhere else that people can find some of those MLS webinars or videos you guys have done?
Yeah, about tomorrow morning, we'll send them a link to this recorded webinar, and on there we'll have a link to our webinar channel that has a whole bunch of classes. So they've got lots of resources for recordings.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I mean, we had great attendance today and the questions were wonderful. And of course, to our 4 MLS instructors, WJ, Edith, Maggie, and Rachel, thank you for taking your time today to give us your best MLS tricks and hacks so we can look like the rock stars that we are to our clients. Look forward to attending more, and encourage everybody who's on here today to make sure that you guys definitely look at that webinar channel when you get this pre-recorded webinar as well. Share it with your friends, share it with your colleagues, and of course, again, if you have any issues, feel free to contact our MLS department directly. These are the amazing people that will be helping you as well. So for now, stay warm. Enjoy the rest of your, I believe it's Wednesday, and we will see you guys soon.